I'm Taylor.
And I'm Mike. Two friends and a question. All right, Taylor, I'm just going to ask you straight up. Do you have trouble forgiving people?
Yes.
Do you need to think about that one?
No. And it's not even really, I forgave so much with my ex, my marriage. I really did. And people find that hard to believe, but I did. I mean, I've tried to be his friend.
I know you have.
But the latest relationship I was in, I have acted like a crazy person.
But I know two things about you. One, your definition of crazy is not as bad as most people's.
Okay.
And secondly, you probably had a purpose.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like I've been lied to so much in my life, and I just want truth.
Yeah.
I want people to act the way I want them to, Mike. Why can't they just be truthful? Why can't they have the Mike policy of total honest policy?
Do you know why they don't act the way you want?
Why?
Because they miss your committee meetings.
That's right. Why are you the only person that attends them?
Because the food is great.
Okay, do you have a hard time forgiving people, Mike?
Nope. Yep. A little bit of both. Don't really know.
Can you think of certain situations where you have unforgiveness?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
From childhood?
Yeah. And recent.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have trouble answering that because I don't know what the difference is between forgetting and forgiving. Like, I'll forgive, I think I have, and then I remember it, and I'm like, okay, am I unforgiving or am I just remembering it?
Oh, that's good.
And I don't know the answer. I think if God put his arm around our two shoulders, me and the combatant, and said, okay, can you shake hands and get along? I'd do it because it's right. Mm-hmm. Then we'd walk away and I'm like, scumbag, jerk. Why did you have to do that?
Do you have hate in your heart or just unforgiveness? Do you hate the person or do you just have unforgiveness? Is there a difference in that?
Well, thanks for listening to today's podcast.
I mean, I think I can't really think of someone I hate. Like hate.
Right. In the true sense of the word.
Right. Okay, maybe there is one person. I just strongly dislike them.
Because of what they did or because of who they are? Or both?
Both.
Okay.
What about you? Is there someone that you hate?
My mom always said hate's too strong a word, so I try to stay away from that. So I don't think I hate anybody in the sense of I want their soul to suffer.
Oh, yeah.
But I think I dislike strongly some people in my life, and I'm not. It's probably an area to work on, but I'm not sure that's as bad as hate.
And I don't really know if I hate them. I don't know what I feel. I feel just like kind of like you don't even know who I am and you have no right to act the way you do because you don't even know me kind of thing.
All right, let me ask you this. Think of a person that you're not sure if you hate or dislike.
Okay.
Okay. If you saw them drowning in a river, would you pull them out?
Yes.
Okay. If you went to a party and there were 30 people there and you saw that person, would you maybe go talk to somebody else?
Yes.
Okay. There you go. I don't
That's
think you
good.
hate them. I think you merely dislike them.
What about you?
Same.
Yeah, I could never let my enemy drown.
No. But I sure as heck wouldn't go over and make a conversation.
Right.
And maybe that says that I'm a little person I need to grow, but it also means I know what I like. And you are not somebody else. What's the old saying? You have 5-second people in your life, you have 5-minute people in your life, you have 5-year people in your life. And there's some people that 5 seconds is plenty. And there's other people, it's like, I can't get enough wisdom from you in 5 years.
Right. And then in Taylor's life, there's only like 5-year people and then they leave. They're like, I can't handle her anymore.
No, I don't think so.
So I love that, like forgiving somebody. Here's where I have the unforgiveness thing. I feel like the people that have hurt me in my life, they're not remorseful.
Yeah.
They're not they've never really come to me and said, hey, I want to call you and just say, I really messed up. I really hurt you.
Yeah.
Whereas I have tried to mend fences with people that have really betrayed me because I want that peace.
Right.
But they've never, ever shown major remorse.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Have they not been remorseful out of spite or because they're incapable of it?
They're incapable.
So maybe, as a friend once told me, if you tied their legs together, would you expect them to run a marathon? Maybe they just can't do it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not about you, it's about them.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe another level of forgiveness is not only do I forgive what you've done, I forgive the fact that you can't build a bridge with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we don't try, but we don't.
I think Mike, love has been such a weird thing for me because I really have only loved, I mean, this is awful to say, Mike, but I mean, really only loved 2 men in my life. 2.
Really?
One of them was when I was 19 and the other was when I was 24. And as you know, the other one came back into my life. And I think the reason that I got so hurt and it's hard for me to forgive him is because he knowingly hurt me and didn't take a second to think, oh my gosh, she's already been through this. I'm going to hurt her again.
Mm-hmm. And that was on the second time when he was back in your life?
Yeah. And so I think to myself, what human being, when that's the one thing we talked about, knowing that that was such a hard thing that I went through in my marriage, my only marriage. I was going to say my first marriage, my only marriage. I mean, and it took me forever to get married, Mike. I was 33 years old when I finally got married.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just think I don't want to be guarded.
Mm-hmm.
I have to pray about it. I mean, I just have to say, God, help me to forgive. And honestly, people ask me all the time, with your marriage, do you forgive him? Absolutely, I do. Mm-hmm. We would be great friends if he would be my friend.
Right.
We could laugh, we could cut up, and I forgive him.
Right.
Because I just want to move on.
Right.
So I don't know. What about you? Tell me about yours. Like the grudges.
I think the grudges stem from my thinking you went out of your way to do that. But maybe I forget the tied legs in their marathon thing and realize it wasn't a calculated thing. It was a point of weakness for that person and they acted out of that weakness. So I need to just let it go. But that's where I get tripped up with forgetting and forgiving. I mean, it's impossible to forget without God's total help, but we can still forgive. But sometimes it's hard to tell the difference.
So God says, love one another.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that so hard to do when somebody's hurt you? Do you still love the people that hurt you? Do you have a place within you that loves that person?
From a Christian standpoint, yes. From a heart standpoint, it's a lot harder. And does that say more about me than them? Probably.
So do you think God allows some of this stuff to happen until you learn your lesson? Like, forgiveness is the best form of love.
Yes, I like that. Maybe. I never thought of that, but maybe these are repeated opportunities, and maybe we're getting better over time at it.
Because how can I stand before God if I haven't forgiven somebody when he's going to forgive me for all of my mess?
One of my favorite parables Jesus told was about that, the unforgiving servant.
Talk about that.
Well, Jesus told the parable about the servant who was brought before the king and owed him a ton of money and he couldn't pay. And the king was going to throw him in jail. And the servant begged for leniency and got it. On his way home, he ran into a fellow servant who owed a much lesser amount to him, and he wouldn't hear the pleas and threw him in jail until he paid the last penny. Mm. The king heard it and said, "You should have forgiven as I did. I forgave you a much larger amount." Wow. And threw him in jail. I think we have to realize that we were forgiven way more than we can ever forgive.
Oh, absolutely.
And so the refusal to forgive, one of my favorite sayings is, he who refuses to forgive burns the bridge that he'll need someday.
When I was younger, something happened in my mom's family, and I wish I could tell it, but I can't. But my mom forgave a situation that it has been the biggest lesson of forgiveness for me as an adult. I look back on it, and I've even asked her, how did you forgive? And she'll say, because I was asked to, because Jesus told me to forgive.
Wow.
I was asked to by God.
Did she really?
Yeah. And so I think to myself, when my mom has been through something like that, I use that as a lesson, like, for the little bitty things. I mean, certainly no one has hurt me to the point where I'm not able to heal, Mike, you know?
Right. Let me ask you this. think about the person that you either have or had the hardest time forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If they stood in front of you and said, would you forgive me? I know you're good heart. You're one of the best people I know. You would say yes.
Yeah.
Would I be correct in saying the thing that bothers you most is you don't see them ever coming and asking for forgiveness?
Absolutely.
And so you're like, well, I would forgive if you would just come.
Yes. Absolutely.
And that's
100%.
the piece that's hard, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'll even tell you a story about Christianity. One of the things that I've noticed since I've been on Christian radio, because I was on mainstream radio for 30 years before I decided to come to Christian radio. I feel like sometimes in the world of Christianity, we are supposed to be like Jesus. We're supposed to, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? And this is not at my current employer.
Mm-hmm.
A past place that I worked had some of the most unforgiving, judgmental, self-righteous people I have ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
In telling people about Jesus, I want to be that person that says, okay, I'm not bitter. I'm not mad. Somebody did something to me. I forgive them. I want to be that girl.
Right.
But in my hard moments, Mike, and you know this, like, it's hard sometimes to move past. And I've done so well in 8 weeks. Mike's rolling his eyes. He's like, oh my gosh. But when I love, Mike, this is how it is with me. When I love or I let you in my life or you're my friend or you're my circle, I mean, I love. I mean, I am loyal. I mean, I am going to stick with you through thick and thin.
And I've noticed that in you.
And so when you do something on purpose to betray me, gosh, it's hard to forgive.
Yeah. Yeah. What bothers you more, the fact that it affected you or the fact that it was a betrayal?
The fact that I had been through it before and we sat and talked about it and I gave this person every opportunity to not have a relationship with me. Like I would say, listen, we don't have to have a relationship. We don't have to do this again. We've already done this. We don't have to do this. No, I want you. I want us. I want a future. We're planning our life. I let my kids in. That's the one thing I think that bothers me. I let my kids in.
And you are such a loving mother that hurts you for them.
Yes, because my kids missed him, especially my daughter. Like, he was really good to her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she felt that love from him. And she got hurt in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, forgiveness is a hard thing. But it is the best form of love.
I love that. I hadn't heard that till today, but I love that. It's an old story about a person who died and God took him to the threshold of heaven and he said, this is heaven. And the person saw the aunt who used to get mad at him and he saw the friend who betrayed him and he said, how do these people make it in? God said, that's my business, not yours. Do you want to spend eternity with them or not? And if you say, yeah, you come into the party. If you say, well, heck no, then you don't come into the party.
Wow.
So I think at that point, we have to realize that forgiveness is truly the best form of love, like you said.
Yeah, and who am I to be self-righteous?
Right.
Because, Mike, I've messed up. I've done the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this was good. And I think you actually said this one time when we were praying for him. You said, maybe the purpose was for you to remind him about Jesus. And you guys are not on the same level.
Mm-hmm.
I forget how you said it. Something about like, you're not on the same level, but maybe it was just to reintroduce him or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so hard, Mike, when you pray for something and the answer's no.
Right.
But God, this is what I want.
Right.
Why are you saying no to me? You tell me, ask and you shall receive.
Mm-hmm.
Or, have you asked not? I mean,
Right.
you don't have it because you haven't asked me.
Right.
Well, God, I'm in a church with Mike praying for it. And I was praying for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then he shows me what's being done in the dark. And I'm over here going, but
Right.
God, that's
Right.
what I wanted.
Right. Well, when we ask in Jesus' name, we get what we're praying for, but I think we forget that we don't always know what we're praying for.
Yeah. What would you tell someone if they're having a hard time forgiving right now? What would you say to them? First of all, I know you would say, oh, I get it. It hurts.
Yep. And then I would say that Jesus forgave us more than we can forgive back. So you need to do it as an honor of that.
Mm-hmm.
But also put yourself in their shoes. I mean, are they a legs tied together marathon runner? Maybe they are, and maybe you need to realize that.
So do you reach out to them, Mike? What do you do?
To the people
that hurt you? Do you reach out to the people that hurt you that haven't apologized? Do you say, I just want to let you know today, and I'm not going to reach out to him, so don't worry. But I'm just asking for a person that's listening. If someone has hurt you, do you reach out and say, you know what? I wanted to let you know today I forgive you. Today's the day that I show you love. Today's the day I'm telling you that I forgive you. I know you hurt me, and I'm telling you that Jesus loves you no matter what you've done to me, and I forgive you.
And just out of the blue, like they didn't come to you first?
Right.
Wow.
So do you do that, or do you just go on with life and you just forgive them in your heart and your mind?
Wow. I think I would like to be the kind of person who could do that, and I tell myself I'm not, simply because I don't want to bring it up again, or I don't want them to think I'm self-righteous. But maybe what you said is the way to go. Maybe they need to hear that. Maybe God's calling me to do the difficult thing. I don't know. That's a great way to look at it.
And one time I remember someone said to me, sometimes, Taylor, I think you think forgiveness is something somebody owes you.
Ooh.
Or repentance is something somebody owes you. They don't owe you anything.
That's a good point. But we keep thinking they do.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's where the unforgiveness rests, right there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So God tells us we have to forgive. I mean, isn't that a command?
It is.
So we all got to get through this together to say, okay, today's the day that we're going to forgive no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it starts with forgiveness in our heart before we even take that step out.
Mm-hmm.
But there's got to be a power behind what you suggested and actually saying to them, I forgive you. Uttering those words probably is therapeutic in and of themselves.
I mean, you could Facebook them or email them or text them and just say, I forgive you.
Yeah, just some way to get it out there.
Yeah.
Well, let's do this. Let's talk about what amazes me is that he forgave those soldiers as they were doing it to him. I mean, what would that take?
So you're talking about when Jesus was being persecuted.
Right, and crucified.
He even said, forgive them for they know not what they're doing.
Yeah, as they were doing it. And he even stopped by and talked to the people of Jerusalem, the crowd. And some of them may have been relatives of the soldiers who were about to crucify him. And he still talked to them kindly. I mean,
know.
Where do we get off not forgiving somebody?
It's so true. I bet you can relate to this. I was just thinking about this. Forgiving someone is releasing the need to replay the negative situation over and over and over in your mind.
Wow.
To replaying all of the things that person did to you. I think that's when you know you truly forgive somebody, is when you stop doing that.
I like that. And we started out by saying, do we forgive or forget? Maybe the way to forget is to truly forgive and let it go.
Yeah. I mean, I just think about Jesus being persecuted, like you said, and him asking God to forgive. Can you imagine somebody doing that to you and saying, God, forgive this person? That is the highest form of love. That is unbelievable.
It validates your quote.
Yeah.
Well, Romans 5:8, St. Paul says, God proves his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. He didn't wait for us to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
He forgave us as we were sinning. What kind of love would that take if somebody were trashing your life or trashing your reputation, and as they're uttering the words, you say, I forgive you?
Wow.
I need to grow up a little bit, I think.
So do I. So do I.
How about this one? Whoever said revenge is sweet never tasted the yumminess of forget about it.
That's good. Have you ever sought revenge on anybody that's hurt you, Mike?
Yeah.
Have you really?
I haven't murdered anybody.
Right.
But
in the physical world, have you done something to try to get revenge?
I just thought about a story. Should I tell it?
Yeah, tell it.
So I'm at the in-laws' house. They had been at our house, and this is back when money was such a burden that we had to buy cardboard for toilet paper. And so they used the toilet paper, and we were embarrassed that they had to use that because it wasn't comfortable.
Right.
So we went to the in-laws' house at holiday time, and there was a young baby in the family, so the diapers and wipes were all over, the packages. Mm-hmm. I was in the restroom, and I needed some toilet paper. So I reached over to the white roll, which, does that say toilet paper to you?
Right.
Okay. And it wasn't comfortable. And I thought, well, we were embarrassed about our toilet paper. They should. I said, honey, it's not toilet paper. That's a roll of paper towels cut in half to make their own baby wipes. The toilet paper's in a cupboard.
Oh, my goodness.
Do you know how close I came to going upstairs and saying, you cracked on my toilet paper?
Oh, my goodness.
It wasn't toilet paper. It was paper towels.
That's funny, Mike.
So sometimes our need to exact revenge on somebody can backfire.
Yes. And that's why God says, do not seek revenge. I mean,
Right.
He tells us that.
Revenge is mine,
Yeah.
says the Lord. Yeah.
Right. Oh, you don't even know how hard that was for me when I was going through my divorce.
The not seeking revenge
Yeah.
piece? You want to tell?
Oh, it was so hard. I mean, it almost makes me sick to my stomach to think about. It makes me sick to think about the money that was spent in court. It makes me sick to think about all of the hateful, mean, evil stuff that took place among three people. There was three of us in that marriage. It makes me sick.
Still?
Yeah, it was so evil. But I never physically went to anybody. I never physically sought out anybody. I never knocked on anybody's door. I never did anything like that. But I remember walking into the courtroom, and my lawyer at the time, his name is Jerry Fabus. I never had talked to him about Jesus. This was September of 2018. We got in the elevator that day, and he said, the Holy Spirit has told me for you to be still. That's all. Be still. And I remember looking at him, and I said, oh, my gosh, like you've never even talked to me that you even were a believer. And he said, just be still. And we were in court something like, I think about 9 hours, Mike. And the whole time, we never said anything back to what was being said about me. And I got so mad at my lawyer. And then we took a break, and he said, I told you to be still. We're not going to spend, he said, she said. We're not going to do it. You've spent enough money on this. And I drove to the Tri-Cities at 2:45 in the morning. I pulled up in front of the courthouse at 8:30, went inside, had the trial, left the Tri-Cities at 6:45 that night after the trial, and I had won custody to move to the Tri-State. I drove all the way back home, and I remember how exhausted I was. And the whole time I was talking to God, I just remembered him keep saying, don't seek revenge. Revenge is mine.
Wow.
But you know what I have a hard time with, Mike? I don't want anyone to live a life of being paid back or not happy or living a life of misery. And when I look back on everything, I wish I would see, this is a whole nother podcast. I wish I would have just let my ex-husband go, and I would not have fought for my marriage.
Wow. That's a deep statement.
I wish I would have just let him go. It would have saved a lot of time. It would have saved a lot of money. It would have saved me a lot, but also I wouldn't know Jesus. So.
Because fighting for your marriage deepened your relationship with Christ?
Absolutely. But
so that's the ultimate. That's the best prize, right?
Yeah. But I do forgive him, even though he doesn't think I have. He doesn't think that I've forgiven him.
He doesn't?
No, but I have. And I, he's the father of my children. I want him to have love in his life. I want him to have the best.
Right.
Just like I want that for myself, just because our kids will benefit. That's the ultimate, not only our kids, but our grandkids.
Yeah.
And I think forgiveness is one of the best things you can pass down to generation after generation.
Agreed. Well, the opposite is certainly one of the worst things you could pass down.
Right.
If you could, what would you say to him right now?
That I did the best that I could. I did the best I could.
Maybe he's the legs tied in a marathon race guy.
I just think so much evil was done during that whole process that I don't even like to think about it. And I'm talking about in everybody. I'm talking about his family, my family. I'm talking about everybody. It was just so much hate. There's so much hate. It's disgusting. It makes me sick to my stomach.
Do you have to go back there memory-wise, or can you let it go?
No, I can let it go. I've moved on.
Good.
I don't think about it. I don't worry about it. I
Good.
don't spend time thinking about it at all. I pray for him.
That's good.
I
That's
pray
huge.
for him.
Well-
And at one time, a pastor told me, he said, I think it's okay if you don't pray for him. I think it's okay.
Because it wraps you up in
Yes.
misery?
Mm-hmm.
What if we've talked about this before, tell me where you're at with it now. What if you delegated that prayer for somebody else to somebody else?
Yes, like Mike.
Because it doesn't wrap me up because I don't have the baggage. So maybe let me or somebody else handle that.
Yeah, that's true, Mike.
And
I know you're already praying
I
for
do. I still do.
other people.
Well, I do for him. I want you to know that.
Yeah. You're talking about Jimmy.
Yeah. Well, and
Andy.
both.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm telling you, maybe
Because I sincerely, whether they believe it or not, because Mike, here's the thing. Andy doesn't know me. He does not have a clue who I am. I haven't been with him since 2014.
right.
Are you the same person you were in 2014?
Thank God, no.
Right. So how could he possibly know me? He hasn't even talked to me or been around me. No
Well-
one that has not, if you have not talked to me in the past 3 weeks, you do not know me.
You grow fast.
Right.
You are, Taylor, without a doubt, one of the best moms, best Christians, best radio people, and best friend I've ever known. And I would think that if somebody can't see that, they don't know you that well.
Right. Thanks, Mike.
So let that be your mantra on good days, that you are a good person. If he doesn't see it, let it go.
Right. Okay. That's some deep stuff. What about you, Mike?
Might take another podcast, but I'm working on forgiving. And I think if God were right here and said yes or no, I would say yes, I forgive. But I'm not so sure on my own that and maybe that's the point. Maybe we can't forgive without his help, But maybe asking in and of itself is a form of forgiveness.
So you know how you said you're scared of hell in one of the other podcasts? Are you scared that you're going to get to heaven and God's going to see unforgiveness?
Yeah.
But I know we are supposed to be God-fearing. But I also think that God, he made each of us.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows every single thing about us.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe God looks at Mike and says, he's done the best that he can with forgiving this person. And so, Mike, I love you. I forgive you. What if God is like that? What if he knows how much you want to forgive that person, but you just can't?
I like that thought. Maybe wanting to is the first step, and maybe that's the step he's looking to take you the rest of the way with.
So let me ask you a question. Jack comes home from college. You're sitting on the couch. He sits down with you and says, I hate myself. And you're like, why? And your son says, because I'm not worthy and I can't forgive someone that really hurt me, Dad. I try. I pray about it. I think about it all the time, Dad. I just can't. And he starts crying. You would never say, well, son, I'm going to turn my back on you. I don't love you.
You're right. You're right.
You would say, come here. Come here. I get it. I'm hoping that God will be like, and I am God-fearing, though. I know that I have messed up, Mike. And let me say that I've never been perfect. I've sinned. I still sin. I think thoughts. I do things. So I'm not perfect. I never want it to come across that I was perfect in my marriage, ever.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big adventure on learning how to forgive, isn't it?
Yeah.
And love.
Which, as you said, go together.
Yeah.
The story about a girl who sent a letter home from her first semester in college, and she said, Dear Mom and Dad, got a tattoo, I got body piercings, and I burned down my dorm accidentally. None of the above is true, but my B in chemistry should go over better now.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes we forget that God's in the business of forgiving.
Yeah. And I think sometimes that we forget that God made us, and so he knows every thought. He knows every piece of hair on our heads.
Yeah.
That's such a cool thought for me.
Me too.
Somebody sent this to me. I just want to read it real quick. It says, a real apology requires freely admitting fault, fully accepting responsibility, humbly asking for forgiveness, immediately changing the behavior, and actively rebuilding trust. And maybe those are the things that I was looking for forgiveness from people. And maybe you too.
Mm-hmm. They are. Every one of those. I like that.
So today, let's just ask God to help us forgive when we can't forget.
Yeah.
Forgive when we keep playing that over and over in our mind. Help us to forget, God.
And help us to trust in your help and not try to do it alone.
Mm-hmm. Matt Maher sings a song called Lord, I Need You Now. It's one of my favorites, and it reminds me of that right now.
Me too. I like that song.
Okay. Forgiveness is the best form of love. This is Taylor.
This is Mike. 2 friends and a question. Hey, Taylor, I got a question for you that we're going to do next time.
Okay.
Do you have trouble with guilt? And are you a control freak? And are you a control freak? And are you a control freak? And are you a control freak?